We are flying beyond borders today on feathered wings. We know that Sri Lanka is a favored destination among migratory birds the world over. And for migratory birds, water is an imperative. Wetlands, rivers, lakes, streams and ponds are vital for these birds to rest up, refuel and get on to the next leg. And that's why water is the theme for this year's World Migratory Bird Day being celebrated this week. You are with Kaleidoscope, flying away as we make everything in our show positive, daring, different. Welcome. As we fly across the world with migrant birds, we stop over in Milan to see a Lankan designer taking things international, chat with the founder of BNI, and in time for World Mental Health Day, find out more about Alzheimer's. A massive thank you to our partners Srilanka Live, CDB and The Daily Morning. You are awesome. We hope you like Kaleidoscope. Tell your friends to subscribe and follow us too. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
CDB Hybrid Leasing. Enjoy exclusive interest rate and much more for hybrids, plug-in hybrids and EV vehicles.
Here's a quick look at the week that was on CDB Snapshot. China's Exim Bank reaches a tentative debt agreement with Sri Lanka to resolve the country's debt, ahead of the IMF meeting in Morocco. Sri Lanka's official foreign reserves are about $3.5 billion as at September 2023. Sri Lanka continues to sustain a nearly $1 billion difference in its trade deficit. And Sri Lanka is to take over as chair of the Indian Ocean Rim Association. An investigation reveals that almost 200,000 books are being used to train AI systems without the author's knowledge. A 104-year Chicago woman breaks the record for the oldest person to go skydiving. Looks like the birds have gotten nothing on her.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome. This is Srilanka Life News Capsule. On the show today is a global business celebrity who walks the walk. Dr. Ivan Meisner is the founder and chief visionary officer of the Business Networking Organization, or BNI, and is a proponent of business networking and social capital. One of his most famous Ivanisms is the idea that doing 6 things 1,000 times would make you more successful than doing 1,000 things 6 times. The social capital is what we chatted about when I met up with Dr. Ivan Meisner when he was in Sri Lanka. One of the areas you've actually been lecturing at universities is on social capital. So let me ask you, how important is social capital for a country like Sri Lanka?
Well, it's extremely important, and we don't teach it in colleges and universities, not just in Sri Lanka, anywhere in the world. It's not taught in the United States, it's not taught in other countries, yet I think it's one of the key factors in building a business. So we give people a college degree in business and in marketing, yet we don't teach them social capital or business networking. You know why I don't think we do it? Because it's tenured professors who control the curriculum of a university, and most tenured professors in business have never run a business. So they don't know how important business networking, social capital, and emotional intelligence is to building a business.
How do we make social capital work for us as a country?
Here's the key. Hold the vision, not the obstacles. Were there obstacles in business 10 years ago? Yeah. Were there obstacles during COVID? Yeah. Are there obstacles today? Yeah. Will there be obstacles a few years from now? Yeah, there are always obstacles. So the key to building an economy, starting with the small business, the key to building a small business is to hold the vision, not the obstacles. What happens is we get so caught up in the obstacles, we lose the vision. But when you can hold that vision, you can get through the obstacles.
How do you think a country like Sri Lanka can stay relevant in these current times while struggling to maintain our survival equilibrium?
It really is about holding the vision that you have. What tends to happen is that there are all these challenges that come in front of people, and so we hold that obstacle, we hold that challenge, and we get so obsessed with the challenge, we lose the vision that we're trying to achieve. And so if you really want to be successful in business, you got to do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times. And those obstacles and challenges tend to get us off track, they tend to get us focused on what's going wrong rather than what's going right. And I mean, I've seen this in country after country. I've seen this with business after business. The businesses who refuse to participate in a recession, who look for opportunities when there are challenges, those are the ones who tend to be most successful. The ones who refuse to let COVID hold them back were ones that were way more likely to be successful. And one of the ways they did it was by connecting in their network, right? Your network is a beacon of hope in a sea of fear. So lean on your network to help you become and stay successful.
In our market sketch this week, at the Colombo Stock Exchange, the all-share price index dropped by 3.5%, with average daily turnover levels remaining low. Oil prices moved up to over $86 per barrel on uncertainty in the oil markets after Israel declared war on Hamas. Gold moved slightly above $1,860 per ounce as the dollar weakened on news that US interest rates may have plateaued. Hong Kong's Fire Dragon dance is back in full force after a 4-year hiatus, and oh how wonderful everything looks. The ritual started a century ago when residents performed the dance to combat the plague. The spotlight is on Eve Arnold, the first female photographer to join renowned photographic agency Magnum in 1951 and famed for changing the way we see fashion. September was World Alzheimer's Month, but despite these reminders, how much do we know about it? Globally, 75% of people with dementia are not diagnosed, which is about 41 million people worldwide. The World Health Organization reports that dementia is the 7th leading cause of death among all diseases worldwide. In Sri Lanka, rough estimates are that about 400,000 people are affected. The Lanka Alzheimer's Foundation began in September 1999, and with us today is Professor Shehan Williams, current president, and he's here for a chat on Let's Talk. Now, to those of us who aren't really quite sure, what exactly is Alzheimer's? What causes it?
Alzheimer's is the predominant cause of dementia. Dementia is when a person, usually when they age, develop memory problems and difficulties in being able to think and use their brain as before.
How is Sri Lanka coping with Alzheimer's?
I think as a nation we haven't really considered the extent of the problem. We are the fastest aging South Asian country, and by 2030 every 5th person in this country will be over the age of 60. So many of us will have to face this condition in our selves or even in our families, and we have to be prepared to help and support people who get affected by this condition because there is no cure at the moment.
What does the Lanka Alzheimer's Foundation do?
So as a foundation, we are the only organization in Sri Lanka working on this area of dementia and Alzheimer's disease exclusively. We want to raise awareness and bring this issue to the forefront because it's going to be a major issue in the years to come, so that the government as well as a society we will be ready to support and handle the situation where we have a lot of people with Alzheimer's disease and dementia.
What common myths actually surround Alzheimer's?
So the commonest idea we have is that people become forgetful as they age, and it's a normal part of aging. In reality, That's not the truth. Many of us can live well even beyond 100 years if we don't get affected by this condition called Alzheimer's or other conditions like Parkinson's or strokes and so on, which eventually lead to dementia.
Medically, what strides have been made?
So there are many sort of global clinical trials and being done to find a cure for the condition. There are some drugs which seem to show some hope, but we are still far from finding a cure for this condition which eventually affects the brain.
What are some of the problems that people with Alzheimer's actually face?
The brain and our cognitive function, that is to think and to act and to remember things, is fundamental to being a human being. And when this gets affected, it's a real challenge for the individual concerned. And sometimes the individual himself or herself doesn't realize the extent of the problem, and it's the others around who will be affected, who may not realize the issue, and the issue leads often to lots of interpersonal conflicts, exploitation of the person, as well as sometimes a serious risk to the life of the person by wandering, getting lost, or doing something without remembering things and getting themselves into serious trouble.
What should people be aware of in sort of identifying the early signs of Alzheimer's?
The signs can be very subtle in the initial phases. Somebody may be misplacing things and accusing somebody of taking their things. They may be sometimes giving money to various people and not realizing that they have been doing this repeatedly. Their judgment may go wrong, and sometimes they may become more irritable and aggressive, and so on and so forth. So we need to identify this, be aware that dementia could come on at any age as we age, usually after the age of 60, and then if necessary make sure that we make or take them to a doctor and make an early diagnosis so that we can plan the best for the person.
Can Alzheimer's be prevented?
Keeping ourselves healthy from a very young age, being physically active, being mentally active, making sure that the other non-communicable diseases which can compromise the blood supply to the brain, like blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol levels are controlled, and we live life which is in a healthy environment as well as an overall level of well-being.
The Spring-Summer Collection 2024 at Milan Fashion Week, one of the 4 biggest global fashion weeks in the world, was held in September, and a Sri Lankan brand walked the runway at one of the several fringe events. Lapad by Dinushi Pamanua showcased Sri Lankan batik in all its heritage splendour with a modern twist at the runway show by Fashion Vibes. Dinushi began her fashion journey using batik on luxury lingerie, showing at SLDF and CFW and moving to one-of-a-kind ready-to-wear collections exclusively retailing at PR, which is where we caught up with her just after she returned to Sri Lanka. Needless to say, she was excited.
It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I was honestly overwhelmed because they had castings for each designer, so we were able to fit on the garments on different models that we pick. So we were able to go with the different skin tones, the colors, the height. It was amazing. For the collection comes from Kandy and Sri Lanka, because I'm born and bred in Kandy. And I visited the Maligawa, took some pictures of the drawings. I wanted something from my hometown there. So the swirls for the designs comes from that. And then I love the jasmine flower that we have in Sri Lanka because it's so simple and so just unique. So we have a little bit of that going on as well. And then the last one is the leopard print, because the Sri Lankan leopard, it's a uniqueness for Sri Lanka. So I combined all 3 and then expanded on the 3 colors of the Sri Lankan flag. The colors, I took the orange, the yellow, and a little bit of the green as well. It's taken Lapad to an international stage, and also to see I was the only batik designer and only designer from Sri Lanka, because we were able to make a stand with all other designers from around the world, making sure that batik can also take it to the international level.
Here's a reminder to push the boundaries of possibility this week. We'll see you next week. Happy weekend.